hvis vi skal gøre os selv en tjeneste.
Faktisk, okay. Det er min, det får du i hvert fald. Det er lidt fint nok, det er den. Så det er rent, der er noget tårn. Okay.
Herkese
I would like to say good afternoon to all of you. I'll be moderating this session, and my name is Mehmet Ali Susam. I am Deputy of Izmir. I am representing the Republic's People's Party, and I'm the spokesperson of the Commission on Industry, Trade, Energy, Natural Resources, Information and Technology. First of all, I'm more than happy to be in a session with you. You know, once the politicians take the microphone, they also will try to convey their own political messages, which I believe is also a need to do this. Because from the very beginning of the Congress, we have actually listened to our experts and also several international speakers, mainly the minister, and I made good use of this. We have also listened to the power, the political power in power, the political party, but how about the opposition party? We are a social democratic party. Maybe very briefly, I can share with you. I'm not going to take too much of your time, and I'm sorry for that in advance. But in Turkey, when we say wind energy, and in terms of the development of the wind energy, I actually cannot say that. And I mean, as a political party and a member of a political party who actually supported wind energy, but in literal terms, I really never hesitated to come here, although nobody ever discussed about the contribution of my political party so far, but we really devoted ourselves because we are the people who would actually like to develop wind energy in Turkey because we really believe in this. And our general policy is that to strengthen the renewable energy in Turkey. And of course, wind is extremely important for Turkey. This is what I believe. And I am the deputy of Izmir from the Aegean region of the country. And in particular, when considering this, it's actually a first-degree wind area, has a huge potential, the Izmir area, and I know about the investments there. And if you also include Balıkesir, because it's also close, because Izmir is a hinterland that covers 10 other cities, an economic center, a port city, with a history of 8,000 years, and in particular the leader city. Therefore, in wind, I should say Turkey has a huge potential, and I'm representing such a city. We have very distinguished panelists. We'll be discussing about safety, education, certification, training in the wind energy sector, and in particular thinking about the position of Turkey in the wind energy. It's important to discuss it, and I know there are very competent individuals who joined us. And let me first introduce the panelists, and then, in general, of course, according to the information that's given to me, I'm introducing you. And Klaus Rose from Siemens Wind Department, and also at the Global Wind Organization chair at the same time. And since 2008, worked at Siemens at different positions, and also served the Danish army for 20 years. And he left there with a good university degree. Karsten Lind Andersen. In 2004, established the Danish Wind Academy, and he had 17 years of experience before the establishment of the academy. Since 2004, with the innovative training concept on wind turbines and on risk assessment, he's providing training. Jens Mitterby, they did not write much, but according to the information that I received, he is actually like an ordinarius professor and a very important trainer, R&D expert who really devoted himself to this topic. Mustafa Engin Küllahoğlu, born in Ankara, studied economics at Hacettepe University on nature and mountain trekking. He had several adventures, and especially in Canada, in the United States, he received a lot of training. And today working on rope access and married with one child. So we'll be moderating this session. They will be delivering their presentations. And one additional thing I would like to mention, in Turkey, the wind potential is important, and it should be converted into investment, and investment should be converted into generation. And of course, there are certain obstacles and limitations by the legislation, and I believe that these types of meetings and the Turkish Wind Energy Association will be contributing a lot. I've followed all the sessions, and there are several critics that I've taken down note of, and I again will be ready at the Turkish Parliament to mention these things, and I believe that as a part of the session, I also know that at least for our installed capacity, already installed capacity, I hope that they actually will develop more, and the necessary obstacles I hope will be removed. And of course, it at the same time will provide for this, and I hope that it will start actually in Izmir. And I would like to say that my region is actually ready to give for this. After such an introduction, first, Mr. Anderson.
Notes on me before the presentation. Okay, I can. Okay.
Okay.
Good day, all of you. I am very happy to be invited here by the people's interest in discussing actually human resources and manpower. I'm not surprised to see 40 people here, and I'm not surprised to realize that 10% of them is the panel. So I will give you a few words about myself. I started in the wind industry in 1989 with a small Danish manufacturer putting up 150 kilowatt wind turbines on lattice towers. The reason for entering the industry as a technician was back then, actually I'm still a technician in my work with my customers, was that I finished my apprenticeship at the United Breweries in Denmark, Carlsberg and Tuborg, where we spent 6 megawatts every hour producing Danish beer. We produced 4.3 million beers a day, and I was considering if I have to put my footprint on this planet, it should probably not be to produce beer, because I don't think the human mankind would be challenged by the fact of having no beer. And 6 megawatts of energy production an hour to produce Carlsberg and Tuborg beer was not the thing that I was actually very much turned on by. So I decided to join the wind industry at that point, simply by actually just wanting to set a footprint on doing something better, which many of the technicians of today really like. What I'm bringing here is a very short case story from AXA Energy that came to me in 2010 at an exhibition in Husum asking, is there any chance at all that we can get involved in operating our Vestas V90 3 megawatt wind turbines? And I said, there's all the chances you need. There's all the possibilities you need. Because it's people doing the job. It's not the technologies. We are passed the time where we have challenges with our wind turbines. We don't produce bad wind turbines anymore. We don't produce bad gearboxes. We don't produce things that doesn't work, but we have a challenge in having the right people doing the right job here. So the mission in general is to make sure that the people involved in operation, including the technicians, understand what this is all about. We see from our training that we are planning in 22 different countries all over the world with utilities like AXA, that the machines are performing very different. And it's not because the machines are put together in different qualities. It's because the organization behind the machines are different. So it's very important that people actually start to understand what they're doing. I have been a technician, an OEM technician, an energy micron technician in my later days before I started Danish Wind Power Academy, and I was not supposed to be very clever. I was trained in work instructions mainly, because it was easy to control the work instructions. But if everything reached out of these work instructions, I couldn't do much at that point, which annoyed me a lot, and which annoys a lot of technicians a lot. So that's one of our main goals today. The main client is primarily the utility. It's the end user, it's the owner and the operator. That's our best client. That's where we add the most value. And we have them in any part of the world, including in Turkey with AXA Energy, which we have had a very nice cooperation with. I just want to roll through very quick how the concept works, because focus here is on people. The only technical focus we have is analyzing the machines, because it's the turbines that decides what kind of training we are doing. In my early days in 2004, I kept asking my customers what you need, until I realized they don't know what they need, because they have no knowledge of why it fails. So I stopped that in 2007, and then I started asking the turbines instead what we need, what kind of training we need. And that's basically our condition-based training we are supplying today. Mostly when a client like AXA comes up, he have a few bullets when I start asking him why you want the training. There should be a reason for that. And it's never the fact that he just wants to spend some nice money on his employees to give them a nice training. It's because he's not satisfied with the situation he's in today. Many of the things are like we read here. He's looking for operation transparency. He wants to reduce his unscheduled downtime. He wants to lower his maintenance cost per megawatt hour. Nothing that nobody don't want. It's basically what everybody wants. He wants increased stability. He wants more turbine performance. He wants to reduce scheduled maintenance hours. He actually wants to get into scheduled maintenance instead of doing panic repairs. He wants better root cause analysis. He don't want to drive 4 times to the same error. This is things he wants. This is things he wants his guys to do, his technicians to do. He wants a first time, first fix kind of situation. He don't, like I said before, he don't want to spend several times going there. And offshore, this is really a no-go. He wants more knowledge in-house, because he has to prepare his future strategies for operation. Maybe he have a short-term strategy of 5 years within warranty, but maybe he have a 20-year lifetime on his assets he want to plan with. And to do that, he needs to know as much as possible. He wants less panic repairing. He wants predictive maintenance. He wants actually the fact that any power producer would like to have. If you ask a Vattenfall guy from hydropower, they have had this for 30 years. So there's nothing new in this. He just wants that with his new assets also. Alternatively, if he don't succeed with this, the only thing he can do is actually to do something himself, take over, or to ask somebody else to do it. Or he can go and be very hard on his service provider to improve this. Many of these things that he wants will be in conflict with that business case his service provider have. So it can be a challenge doing that. AXA came to me with these things after that. He said, I want my training on site in Turkey. Can you do that? Yes, I can do that. I want maintenance subjects detailed described before we do the training. What kind of jobs does it take for me to actually service and maintain these machines so I can hire the right people? We were helping him with that. He also wanted as simple as a general tool list, what it takes to actually work in these machines. The training should be given as a theoretical and a practical hybrid training, so it should cover both a theoretical part and a practical part in 2 to 3 of his wind turbines. He also wanted a little bit of help on realizing his spare parts, consumables, and all this kind of stuff, because he needed not only to hire a few techs to do the job, he also needed a spare part division, he also needed procurement, he needed different things to actually get into this operation. And then he wanted, how can you say, an emergency escape. If things would fail, he would have the rights to call us and get a little bit of technical support, which we always do, when he starts getting to that point taking over. It was the Baki Samli farm here in Turkey. We are exchanging some documentation. We need to make sure that the documentation we have for the turbine is correct for the turbine, correct for the site, correct for everything. We will also question his performance today. So we will actually question what he thinks is his performance, because this is important. This performance we need to generate the training, because nobody else knows what it takes. We cannot ask anybody in AXA what kind of training you would like, because he wouldn't be able to tell so. Then we generate our performance report, where we break down all these operation errors in segments, because then we can put a hydraulic segment into hydraulics, a mechanical segment of the yaw system into the mechanics, and everything. We put hours on it, and we put consequence on it in failure. This is important also for the technicians. They need to know what consequence it have if they fail in the operation and in their daily work. It's not cheap, and it's 3 times as expensive on a V93 megawatt than an old bonus 1000 or whatever. So they need to know this. And it makes it very easy for us to plan the right training. It's difficult to see, but this is the participant list. It's a combination of AXA people and Baki Electric people that was also on site. And at the right side, we have a small little glimpse of the hydraulic errors in the machine. We have 973 hours downtime because of the hydraulics. We have taken away scheduled maintenance. This is errors that happens that creates unscheduled shutdowns. And if we look at the guys, we look at the strongest field and their weakest field, they have nobody of them is mentioning hydraulics. So here we have a challenge. We have to make sure when we are through with this training that even none of them have actually the strongest field being in hydraulics, that we lift them up there to handle and work with 973 hours in the future. They will not remove them over a week, but they will have focus on them. In this case, it's a 22,000 euro cost he have on 12 months on 30 wind turbines. So it makes sense to get up early in the morning to work for that. It's a direct factor on your cost of energy. And we get into the guys and we finish the training and we make sure that the training is actually very targeted on these types that these turbines are requiring. So even the test, even the certification test, is based on the errors of the machine that these owners have in this particular operation. This motivates the technicians very, very much when we do it like this. If we look at it today, a very short step back, we had approximately 324,000 megawatts by end of December 2013 in the world in operation. We have approximately 16,000 technicians worldwide doing this job, climbing. It's a mix of OEM technicians, operator technicians, and everything. If we look at the fact that the average lifetime of a technician is somewhere between 5 and 6 years, we have a challenge, because with another 250,000 megawatts coming up for the next 4 years, we will need probably another 12,500 techs more on top of what we have. Plus, we will have to replace the one we already trained, we already put in a technician job position. We have far too little focus on this. We think it's a natural must-have that there'll be people doing the job. We don't even consider the technologies are rising now. We just consider we are as good with the techs we have today as we were from the start of 1975. That means we are approximately maintaining 20 megawatt per tech in average worldwide. And now we just consume, we stay as good as that. That means we don't consider we're adding direct drive and different technologies and difficult technologies and much more comprehensive systems. That will mean that we probably get to the point of have to finding 25,000 new technicians in 5 years. And I can see the interest for the technicians here. I can see we will have a serious challenge in the future if we want to succeed with our operation. And only 10% of the people here in this conference is actually participating to hear something about technicians. because they are an extremely important factor. Whatever you are an OEM technician or whatever you are an owner's technician, you are directly impacting on your cost of energy. So we need to motivate the guys, and the best way to motivate them is to bring them responsibility. I was motivated by the fact that I was given responsibility in my job as a technician. I'm still a technician when I climb with my customers to teach them how to calibrate a pitch system, and I like it very much. So don't turn that little thing down, saying that, hey, I buy a new wind turbine, it will work for 20 years, I don't need any people working on it. Because you will face a challenge. We make sure we reinforce this. We do it with several tools we have developed, and we do it with reassessment. Every ongoing year, the customer can choose to have a reassessment of his guys if he have that plan. We don't force him to, but actually many does today. Many come back to us every 12 months and say we need to reassess our guys. And this is important, also important for the motivation. And then it starts all over again. AXA is coming back now, we're discussing converter training, we're discussing different other things, and Investors 112 training. It never stops. And that means if you have a good technician, and he is a good technician, try to keep him in a job as a good technician. Because ironically, like I said before, as faster he gets good, as faster he's off the job. We see the good technicians coming into asset management, operation management, risk management, spare parts, whatever, and we actually lose very important and very good people from the field in a much higher pace than we can backfill on it. So I think we have far too little focus on the techs. Just very shortly, I want to wrap it up. This is the machines where we specifically train on today. We don't offer basic wide, how can you say, kind of soft training. We offer very specific training for very specific wind turbines based on the data of operation. This is the only way we can get access to the technicians and train them in a very short and very efficient period, because we cannot enroll people for 3 weeks in a training program or 7 weeks. It doesn't work in this industry. We would like to, but that's not the way it works. So much for that. Around, I think, 22 countries where we travel out. If we add the people that are coming into Denmark to our open training classes, we will probably have somewhere around 37 countries. And the ironic thing also is that our open trainings where we can buy seats, 60% of the guys joining there as management. It's not even technicians. It's, for instance, ESBI from Ireland that are sending their operation management before they even build or before they start TOC, their wind turbines. So it is important. I thank you very much for your attention, and I hope that you will go out and think that maybe we should have been a little more than probably 10% of this complete audience in these 2 days here, and with 10% being the panel, because this will be one of our challenges in the future with our operation. Thank you.
Teşekkür ediyoruz.
Thank you. 15 minutes that we will give for each and every speaker, and then we'll have your questions at the very end. And this is the way that I will be moderating the session. So actually, that is quite a good training opportunity that you provided for AXA Energy. But of course, it is important to extend it more, especially maybe for the small-scaled enterprises as well. It is important, actually, hopefully, to provide this training for many and different scaled organizations. We will get the questions at the end. Now, Klaus Rose. I don't know if you want, you can sit down and talk from there or from the rostrum. It totally up to you, however you wish.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for allowing me time to talk to you about Global Wind Organization. I've been given a task to talk about best practice, and I can only support what Carsten said early on. Many people believe that the most important asset is our turbines. It's not. It's actually the people that make the turbines work on a day-to-day business. And we tend to forget the fact that they are a limited resource. And if we are to stick to what our politicians asked us to do, we need to realize that we're going to run short. And when I talk about running short, it's not in 10 years from now. It's in the next 5 years. So ultimately, we really need to start doing something a lot more different than we've been used to. This is one of the reasons that Global Wind organization came into place. That is simply to kind of break a vicious circle where we internally in the industry put different kind of training demands on our technicians from a safety standpoint. So even before people can enter the turbines, we had different kind of requirements, and that was ridiculous. So we were spending up to about 3.5 months' time to train the technicians to be able to run to multiple set of sites. So if I was to take Carsten's people, they would have to spend 3.5 months before they can work on different set of turbines with almost practical the same requirements. So what is Global Wind? Global Wind is an organization that allows members that are manufacturers of wind turbines and our large utility companies to become members. It's a non-profit organization, and as you can see, it's equipped with some of the large players in the market. We have our main office in Copenhagen. That was a decision that we took back in 2013 to have a permanent staffed, and it's co-located with the Danish Wind Energy Association. So there is a staff that is available. If you look at, just to give you an indication of where we are worldwide, we cover about 55% of the wind manufacturers as of today. You can, of course, see that there are no Chinese manufacturers. It's not difficult to get the Chinese on board, but they are more localized, and hence they have little interest at this point in time. But as soon as they start going outside of China, they will have to. If you look into Europe, it's 71% of the manufacturers who are part of Global Wind, so it is a significant portion. And we can now see the interest from some of the other players are getting, I would say, hotter as we speak. North America, it's 92%, so it's actually the complete market share of the wind turbine manufacturers that are covered in the US. If you look at our alliances, and I think this is really important, Global Wind cannot work unless we have, I would say, crucial alignment partners. The Crown Estate, for those who don't know, that is, it's the Crown, so it's the Queen who owns the land in the UK. And in particular, with the expansion on the UK offshore market, they control the land. So they are a very important stakeholder, and they have an extensive interest in making sure that we actually have a good foundation when it comes to having a proper safety standard for our technicians. Together with the Marine Coast Guard Agency, we have now an aligned, 100% aligned across all of the Coast Guard agencies in the Atlantic Forum on how to deal with emergency rescue and cooperation response. That is unique for the industry because what it allows the industry to do offshore is having the same utilization of governmental resources, and it also gives the industry a very clear expectations on what we then need to deliver from an industry perspective. We work very closely with the European Wind. We were part of pushing the European Wind Energy Association to form an environmental health and safety platform, which have now been 100% adopted. We are in close cooperation with the American equivalent on the same topic. We also talk to, I would say, local industry bodies like Renewable UK, where we have had a very, very good alignment, and we speak very regularly on the progress. And the reason that I mentioned the UK is because the UK have for many years been a little bit ahead of the game, and we now have 100% alignment with them, which is a significant improvement. And even as far away as New Zealand, they are quite proud to say that they are in this occasion, they have actually beat the bigger brother, the Australians, by getting into this forum early on. So why do we do it? I think ultimately what we need to understand, people looking in the industry, they don't care who have accidents. They don't. They say your accident is anybody's accident. And if we don't realize that, then that's going to hurt us big time. And we can see that in some of the countries that we operate in, the regulators are coming back and really pushing us to get a uniform standard in place. The organization is set up with a board, so there is a steering committee that kind of sets the frame, and then there's a training committee. The training committee's sole task is really to define standards based on factual evidence from the industry and risk assessment. And this is very, very important because this is the first time that it's actually an organization have accomplished to do what we've done in a very short period of time. And just to give you the background, Global Wind Organization was started up in November 2009, and February 2012, the first standard was on the market. Before that, I'm aware of at least 4 other projects that failed. They didn't get to that point. I'm a firm believer that this is due to the fact that we took the baseline of what happened in the industry and based it on our risks. This is where we were, and what we have done is we've actually lifted the bar. It's not a minimum standard, and it's important to say it's the acceptable level in order to work safe in the industry. So what have we produced? We have produced 2 standards. One is a basic health and safety training standard, which includes all the primary objectives for a technicians to be able to climb a wind turbine onshore or offshore. To that, we have now also issued our refresher training package in order to enable the industry to, I would say, update our workforce on a regular basis. In the pipeline, and the release is planned for March 2015, we have a basic technical training as well. That would include mechanical, hydraulic, and electrical training. That would then found the baseline for every technician wanting to work in the industry. And that's also going to help, I would say, other parties getting into more technical turbine-specific training. So the fundament is the same. This is the only way we can drive down costs and make sure that we utilize our workforce in a very proper and appropriate way. If we don't, we're going to run out of resources by 2017, end of 2017. We don't have any skilled people left. That is our reality. By that, I would close my initial wrap-up of what Global Wind is. Thank you very much.
Çok net bir şekilde söyledim.
Actually, you have mentioned everything very clearly. That's right, really, human resources, it is extremely important, a very important asset, and there is the need for skilled and qualified technical personnel. Also from safety perspective, you provided us with your presentation, especially today, thinking about our country, especially how safety is important, because we know it from the very recent mine accidents and all others and all shocking experiences, and how safety is so important. Of course, we have to maximize production, but we need to do it in a safe manner. And in doing so, of course, there's the need to do it with qualified staff and well-trained staff. Why this is important? Because eventually, this is all about the society, and everything must be beneficial for the people. And therefore, people are also paying attention that it should be a safe one. Now I would like to invite Jens Mittebir
sunumunu yapacak.
to deliver his presentation.
Sunumu için davet ediyorum.
Yes, you may take the floor,
Kendisine yöneltin.
and then we will get the questions at the end.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for allowing me to come here and to talk a little about safety and technical training. My background is I've worked with Vestas since 80, so I've been in the business a couple of years. Since 87, I've worked around supporting our technicians out in the field. And from 98 and then onwards, it has been purely with training. Can you go to This is the agenda I would like to talk about today. Taking a step into wind turbine technology, safety-related training and technical training, and then we'll come back to it. This is our current footprint that we have in when we talk about training today. Before 2012, they were divided out into the business itself, but then Vestas decided in 12 to have a global setup. We are today a little more than 40 instructors and a total staff of almost 60 people supporting the business with training. Our main part is, of course, training Vestas technicians, but 25% of our time is actually trying to train customers and subcontractors. When we look at training, when I started in 80, the blades were 5 meters long. The generator had a capacity of 22 kilowatts. Today, Siemens has a 6 megawatt turbine, and we have an 8 megawatt turbine on the test stand. I've taken a picture of the 3.3 megawatt turbine because the challenges for our technician, both from a safety perspective and a technical perspective, is that we'll still develop things, there'll come new things to us, and it will challenge them both from a safety perspective but also from a technical perspective. From a safety perspective, what is really a challenge, this is not having knowledge about new things, but it also can be that it can be the routine that will create an accident for me. If you look at, I've just taken a picture from our safety training, all these things they have to observe when they go into a turbine. What is it that they need to have on them, PPE? What is it that they need to be aware of? And we are sending 2 or 3 guys out in the turbine that have to be aware of all this. So they have to have a very high level of knowledge. How can I protect myself? How can I avoid getting hurt or even worse, getting killed? There's a lot of things out there that can harm them in our wind turbines today. In Vestas, we're working a lot with hazardous energy. I've mentioned some of them here: electrical, mechanical, hydraulic, pneumatic, chemical, thermal. And then we also have the weather when we're working out in the wind turbines. We have all kinds of energy when we're out there. We need to control it when we work in the wind turbines on a daily basis. To try to help out, I can fully support what Klaus said about having a safety training done on a global basis, so we know what the people, when they come to us, what they have in their package. But we need to give them more to try to avoid accidents. They need to have good physical conditions, the correct tools. They need to have the right manuals, instructions, and standards, and time to read and understand them. Then we have to give them some training, safety and technical training, so we increase their knowledge level and skills. And then the planning and organization. will build up their experience if it's done in the right way. So this all build a safety culture in a company, but it takes a long time. Safety culture is not something that comes overnight, especially not in the industry when we are challenged with a lot of new technologies. We can all ask, what is the reason for doing things like this when you know that it can affect us going back? It can be a lack of knowledge, it can be they're used to it, but it can also be a lack of safety culture. Okay, we need to have this done, so we'll manage in a way that we do. And here we have a potential risk when they have to carry out up tools and other things up into the turbine. Talking about technical training, we have to remember 75% of the time spent in the turbine is, when we measure on it, is covered by scheduled maintenance. 25% is for troubleshooting and repair. So the majority of all the people we are talking about, we have to focus on get them trained to do scheduled maintenance. We have to make sure that we can motivate them. They have to do scheduled maintenance 20 years time, maybe, if we have a long service contract. The turbines are at least operating for 20 years. So they have to be motivated and be able to do a high quality job. Doing a good maintenance job, as Klaus said, we will be able to maintain the turbine and have a high yield out of it. I've just taken this sample here for work instruction on a 2 megawatt turbine. Now they'll also come electronically, so the people that will work out there, they have to be able to work with laptop and have to be smart working with them. At the same time, they have to work with a grease gun and a big torque wrench to do scheduled maintenance on our wind turbines. Training technicians, you can divide them, at least that we are trying to do. When they work in wind farms, we can specialize them into scheduled maintenance, troubleshooting, minor repair. It can also be specialized if it's blade or mechanical or electrical. Upgrades, here I'm thinking mostly about software upgrades, major repair, and also specialized exchange of component or major repair of blades or major repair of a gearbox or generator. The outcome of this is increasing efficiency and lower cost, what we all are interested in. If we look at single or 2 or 3 turbines together, the technicians need more skills to cover more jobs, multiple tasks. The outcome is lowering the number of visits and increasing the flexibility when we're doing it that way. So this is when you build your single wind turbine or build your wind farm, and we have to maintain, we need to look at least from my perspective, 2 kinds of technicians. Vestas have chosen to have what we call technician pipeline. I'll not go in deep with it. It's based on a introduction part, which is mostly safety, and then a D level and a C level and a B level. A D level is kind of a trainee where we take all the basic stuff. C level, then you will be certified to complete or do scheduled maintenance. B level, then you will be able to troubleshoot on our wind turbines. The bottom one, C and D level, can also be done at field training, meaning that we'll be on the job training, and we'll give the same criteria after the training because they'll take the same test as in a classroom. What are we aiming at from this? We're aiming at, we would like to offer classroom training, on-site training, take a container and go on-site and do training session there to minimize travel costs. We would like to do online training, mainly for refreshment, because it's cost efficiency to do it, and when the turbine has uptime, then they can go and do it. If they have downtime, they have to go out and repair them. And then we'll also like to offer field training going forward, so that we have this multiple delivery model please remember, education can support a safety and training strategy. Education cannot build a safety culture and cannot hand over experience. Build a safety culture, this is something the company have to deal with, and it takes time. Having experience, this is something technicians have to gain in a safe world out in the wind turbines. So I'll just skip that. Okay. Thank you.
Kendilerine soru
Yarın sorular olacak tabii ki.
Of course, we will have questions later, and I will leave the questions later. Now, let's get the last speaker of the session, and then we may continue. Mustafa Engin Küllahoğlu, please.
davet ediyorum.
Merhabalar.
First of all, whatever is written under my name does not matter. I'm actually one of the technicians on that photo. I'm a technician, and the rope access technician. Wind, as you all know, for many long years, weeks and days, we've been speaking about wind, but this is the most rapidly evolving energy sector in the country, in Turkey. But to what extent we pay attention to training? It's not the international standards that I'll be discussing in here, but I'll be mostly focusing on what we are doing in Turkey or how things have been going so far. First of all, in Turkey, when we say training, education, environment, things are evolving. We have new legislations, we have new procedures, and it is so much in number, in particular the regulations, that we cannot even follow them. And also the same problems apply to the training and the trainers as well. Of course, while having all these problems, what do you think is the most important one? Of course, it is the training and education, I should say. Especially, although it is a legal obligation, especially to provide training for those working at height, it is actually not a proper training that is provided. It doesn't matter. It is either in the mining industry, in construction, or anything. Unfortunately, unqualified people are providing training in Turkey. And according to the Turkish legislation, anyone can give training. And just to speak more frankly, my, for example, mother even can be at the position to deliver training and give a certificate. In Turkey, we also have the joint health and safety at work unit. These units, this is newly introduced in Turkey, and the only goal of establishing these units is to sell products. And they are actually, I mean, those who are selling products are giving the training, because normally there must be separate institutions to give the training. I mean, especially as I'm a technician, as I'm a worker, if you're asking me, this is not ethical to do anything like this. And of course, here comes in particular, as you all know, the GWO, SPRAT, IRATA. These are the international institutions. Why they are successful? Because they are regulating their own training, and at the same time, since they are properly regulating their training, and they also have some proper trainers as well, like GWO, SPRAT, IRATA, both in terms of wind and in all different segments of the industry, all valid training. And why is this the case? We always have to ask this question to ourselves, and I'm sorry about the photo, but this is actually the photo of someone who suffered from head trauma because of falling from height. Was it possible to avoid this? Of course. And in particular, for what we have to be careful about, first of all, The employers, the employee, the boss, the trainer, whoever you call, we should have conscience. And the second thing is that there must be the certification to be given to the trainer, to the training institution. Their qualifications, it's okay, there is a trainer giving a training, but who trained him? Who trained the trainer? We have to know about the qualifications. And whether for example, the training facility, for example, is appropriate or not. Is it possible for me, for example, on a scaffold of a construction to provide training, the venue of the training? Another important thing in particular in the wind sector is that there is a certificate issued, but does that also have international validity, not only national validity? Does that have rescue module, for example? Unfortunately, in Turkey, they provide 4 hours of training, and in this training, they just teach people about the legislation, but have about rescue and everything, but it's all in 4 hours of time, nothing else. I think the most important question to ask is that for example, you have to ask the question, how is it possible for you to cover it in a day? For example, GWO has 5 different training types, and it's actually a gradual training. I mean, they have a certain order, who is going to give the trainer, and these types of things. I mean, it's all structured. Same for SPRAT and IRATA as well. Therefore, the question that you should ask is, what is your exact schedule, your hourly program, your training agenda hour by hour? And the other thing that we always ask is that the fee, the price. For example, the company A is offering a price, B is offering another price, but this is not the actual question. This is the question that you should ask at the very end, not at the very beginning, the cost of the training. I don't want to politicize the issue, but these are the 3 pictures. This old lady drowned in a mine under the ground recently. And he even was saying, my son did not know how to swim. He cannot swim. And the one in the middle from last year, a close friend of mine suffered from this. No standard, no regulation in a measurement pole. And the worker, the employee or the employer has no liability, just a manufacturing error, but it is still by the court. Another one is a letter from a primary school student. This is his letter, Ibrahim, writing a letter to the father after his death. And there's only one lighter, one comp, and 2 Turkish liras on the pocket of the worker. So this is actually all about those who are dying in Turkey, the workers that die. And actually, dying is actually not something that is by the nature of the work itself. And what is important is to provide actually a good training, I should say. That's all I can say. Thank you.
Teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you.
İçinde yaşadığınız sorunlarda karşı
Of course, you mentioned about the problems that you suffer, and thank you very much for showing the mindset in Turkey. And actually, very briefly, but thank you very much for your contribution. Now, before the Q&A session, there are a couple of things that I would like to go through. Really, all our experts in the panel highlighted the importance of safety and training and education. And I know that there are several deficiencies and shortcomings in Turkey, but there is an investment group who really devoted themselves to safety at work. And if you're asking me, that's also the wind energy industry. They are really a group that devoted themselves to safety and to training. And of course, especially, it is important to consider the cost in the investments, but what they also consider mainly is that anything that is to be done should be accustomed and should be customs made also to Turkey. It would be, for example, nice to have a center in Turkey, and maybe what the conditions are, what are the requirements, and thanks to our experts, I think we also should discuss it. I mean, for example, in Turkey, we have 3,400 megawatts over, and we have over 1,500 turbines, and there will be upcoming 800 turbines more, around 1,200 megawatts. And at the same time, there are several future investments to be the case in Turkey, and it's actually fastly growing. And I'm sure that the investors also have so many demands in terms of training. So to Jens Mitteby, my question is, and then you can ask your own questions. For establishing a training center in Turkey, is it wise? Do we have the conditions required for this? Or what type of requirements do we need? You mentioned about ABCD, for example. Considering Turkey, I think it is mostly C and D type training that is provided in Turkey, not much A and B training that we have in Turkey. And what do you think? I mean, what kind of a training that we need? I mean, what are your recommendations? What are your suggestions? What should Turkey do? Thank you.
I would like to answer that. First of all, you need to look into have the safety, have the DWO standard implemented, and from that on you can, from early next year also, to take the basic modules for hydraulic, mechanical, and electrical. These modules, have them implemented and certified so that the industry can benefit from it. Then on top of that, you could build for the maintenance what we call the sea level, that they have other names, so that people will be able to maintain the turbines. But step one, have this so that the industry can go out and purchase in multiple places DWO approved training, both for safety and here next year also for technical things. This would be my recommendation as a startup.
Salondan
Any question from the audience, or any maybe comment or contribution from the hall?
buyurun.
This is Tuna. I have two questions. The first one is to Mr. Mittibi, and the other one can be for anyone. In particular, I know that Denmark gives a lot of actually importance to training, but especially during the development of the wind industry in Denmark, what was the biggest challenge? Maybe you can share this with us. I'll be more than happy. What were the challenges that you had in the development of the wind energy sector? The second question is, especially Mustafa also mentioned about the safety culture. All other speakers, you all focused on safety culture. I work at Borusan, and safety culture is extremely important for my company. But I think the experience that is common for all is that we are a Mediterranean country. Maybe it is because of this, I don't know, but we do not pay that much attention to safety at work. We're always saying we need a change in the mindset and so on. Why do you think this is the case in our country? Do you think it is something to do with the culture, or because of not having good legislation, or do you think it is because people are not trained well? Why it is different? I mean, because we know there's good safety culture in Europe, but why not the case in the others? Thank you.
Buyurun. Sayın.
Yes, please.
The biggest challenge historically, when we take, I'll take Denmark from 80s and onwards. In the beginning, we just went out hiring skilled people, auto mechanic, electrician, and things like that. But when the industry grew and we needed more people, the standard was actually a problem, because when we were talking what we wanted, and then they went to Siemens and they talked with Siemens, said, okay, they wanted a little different. Then they went to, at that time there were many manufacturers in Denmark, Nortank and Micon. They all had a different view of what was expected of this kind of training. Now we have the standards, and I'm really happy that we have them so we can utilize them. The other thing was to really understand the needs that we're having in the industry. As I mentioned, 75% of the time, working hours in the turbine, this is around schedule maintenance. High quality, safety, motivation, this is the need we're having today. But historically, respect about the industry and these standards was actually our biggest challenge. Because when we come and say there's a Vestas standard, they didn't want to listen to us really. But when it's a DWO standard, it has much bigger impact for us. It's easy for us to say, please have this standard implemented, and it's rather easy right now.
And I will be happy to build on your safety culture issue. I think you brought up an interesting question. And the reason that I can say that in my normal job in Siemens, I am responsible for the environment, health and safety for the wind power business globally. And the problem that we are seeing is the fact that people don't believe it. And if you don't believe that safety is important, and you don't understand what it eventually is going to cost you, then I normally use I have an algorithm that I use to kind of explain to people. If you take a lead technician who has an accident, he's going to be away for work for, let's say, 30 days. If I calculate the cost alone for him being away that is related to him personally, I would estimate roughly about 24,000 euros. That's small money from a financial guy. He can live with that because he can just put more people in. That's not a problem. But when it comes to understand how long time it takes the business to recover for this guy being away for 30 days, then the story becomes different, because that takes more than 260 days. So ultimately, if you lose one of your skilled person for 30 days, it takes you 260 days to recover. So that's the reason that you need to have the safety culture in place. This is really to understand and try to help the people to understand. If you get injured, then we are going to be forced to put more people in place that potentially less skill, and the risk will go up. It's more money. You can't follow your schedule. You get behind. When you get behind, you get to a point where you start taking shortcuts, and then you get more people injured. So it's just a vicious circle. And it's very simple. If you want to earn money today in the wind business, you cannot allow yourself bad safety and bad quality. You are not going to be successful. It's as simple as that. And I think, at least in some of the countries that we are operating in, and the same will go for Turkey, this is really the mentality shift that we need to have. It's not the safety in itself, but it's understanding these are business critical topics for you to be successful. So that's, I would say, the best way of answering it. And that's the mentality that you have to bring into your own people as well.
But of course, investment, I mean, when you think about the costs and investment and so on, in terms of training, if you're asking me, the employers actually have a different approach. I mean, they do not have the same approach in making investments just like that they have for training. I mean, it is something that means we need regulations, but we need supervision more than that. And so I think in Turkey what we need is, of course, first you have to properly train the people. And the second thing is that you have to employ well-trained, qualified people, and you have to make training more accessible. And when training is much more accessible, of course, it also will be more widely used by the investors, and this is what we need. And of course, for doing all these things, today, of course, it is safety, training, and certification that is the topic of the panel. So, especially thinking about the international experience of Denmark, what do you think Turkey should do? I mean, is it just, for example, having the qualified personnel? So, do you think it will be nice to have a training center also in Turkey? I mean, because rather than, for example, using the international training centers. So, I think maybe what would you say on this? I mean, do you think it would be nice? Very finally, with a few words. Andersen, do you think we also should have a training center? Will it contribute to safety, and we can continue with Rose?
You can never repeat safety enough. Even if you do the safety training, you have to repeat it all over again. So I think it would make big sense to have a DVO training center, but also in the matter of giving people the consequence of failing in the safety, because there's too many episodes. There's too
Peki
many.
siz mesela Aksa'da
You're working at AXA, okay? And you provide training to AXA. And I'm saying, are the investors saying the cost is too high? I mean, forget about AXA. AXA is a large-scale company. But how about the SMEs? Are they saying that we're paying too much money for training?
They would say until they don't understand, like we just talked about, if they don't understand the reason for the training, they would say it's too expensive. It's our job to illustrate the consequence of failing in a safety matter or in any training matter. If you don't do that job, if you don't picturize that value, you will always have a price discussion. We have to go away from a price discussion, especially when we discuss safety training. That's even more ironic to have that discussion there. So it's our job to make sure that they understand what the consequence if they don't act and take the safety or any training within these given areas.
denetim ve yaptırım lazım.
Of course, there's also, I guess, the need also for sanctions, right? If they do not take any such training.
Of course, there should be. I can only speak for Energy Micron. We had a case in the US where a guy was taking a picture back in the days, standing between two blades without a lanyard on, and he was fired, kicked out in the morning, because you don't want to express a culture where it's about being a Tarzan kind of hillbilly standing between two blades and 100-meter high without a lanyard on. And even if it was a good guy, you cannot say, hey, okay, this guy, that's the worst of all to fire. We need to hold him because it cost me 260 days to replace him. No way, he has to get kicked out, period. And I think that should be a very clear message.
I can give you an example that we have used in Romania, where we were being approached on trying to set up a training center in Romania, because it's also a market that is potentially picking up rapidly. And what we came to terms with, that the government actually in Romania helped invest in a training facility, and then we made sure that they then got to a level of, I would say, acknowledgement and also a capability point where they were actually in a position where they can actually help train people locally. Because part of the cost driver is really, if you have to send people across all over, this is simply too expensive. You need to have your training centers as close to your customers as possible. That's one of the levers to drive on cost. But people need to realize that in order to do that, you have to invest and you have to have the backing of the government. Because if you don't, it's simple things. If you don't allow them to build, if you don't give them permits, in some cases you even want to get them subsidiaries in order to do this, it's never ever going to work. So this is a political decision that you have to take in Turkey and also help support that. It's the only way you can move forward and also drive down the costs, and at the same time get I would say, a high-profile training in place. And there are skilled, we just saw one, there are skilled people in Turkey that have a potential to do so, but in order to do that, they need to do investments. And this is where some of these people fall short, because it costs starting out in the small, and then over time, when the industry gets bigger and bigger, then the cost will kind of level itself out. So that's a clear proposal that you can take back. And I'll be happy to share what they did in Romania.
İşin aslına bakarsanız
Thank you. Well, establishing a training facility in Turkey is not something difficult. And we have actually done this also in Turkey, from the UK, from Denmark, from Sweden. They come, the experts, and they provide training in our own institution, just like we provided training abroad. They come to Turkey. So it's actually something, there's a systematic, and yes, you can possibly do it. Even you don't have to need too much support from the government. You can also do it. I mean, it's not something with a very, very high cost, I would say, but especially if the government is to do something, you have to spend your efforts on how to audit these places. For example, we have a nice center, and we believe it is successful and it's good, but no one has ever come from the government to control us. No one asked us what you are doing. I have received no authority. I'm actually affiliated to an international organization, and there are, for example, even people are coming from abroad to assess us, but no one from Turkey ever comes. Any question?
Merhabalar.
I'm a technician. You know, there are vocational training schools in Turkey. In 2011, about renewable energy technologies, we have a new department. One is about wind energy, and the other is about the solar energy at this vocational school. My question is, in the field of wind energy, the wind technicians training, to make this accredited, I mean, for international acceptance of our training, what we should do? How we can get information about this, because we would like to have accreditation. As a training institution, we would like to be accredited. What do you think the standards are? What are the requirements? How is it possible? I mean, is it possible that you help us somehow on this issue? Thank you.
It's actually very easy. If you go on the Global Wind Organization webpage, there are two documents that are very helpful to read. One is training provider requirements, so it clearly stipulates what you need to have in place, the knowledge base of your trainers. And the second part is the auditee process. So who do you need to have come visit you in order to get accredited? So they will go out and they will do an on-site evaluation to make sure that you are capable of delivering the training. And when that's done, you get a formal third-party accreditation with the Global Wind stamp on it. And then you are accredited global training wind provider, and you will be located on our webpage as a global training provider. So that's the way to do it. I'll be happy to guide you further on to that. That's not a problem.
Başka soru yoksa sizin
No further questions, I guess. Is there anything, your final words from the panelists, and then will be the end of the session?
Say that it is important that you have a local training set up in Turkey going forward with all the turbines you have to install. Otherwise, you will not be able to meet both safety and quality standards the industry requires. So I really wish you all the best with the training set up in Turkey.
Çok teşekkür ediyoruz.
Thank you. Of course, Denmark is actually a country that have taken a lot of steps in the wind energy sector. Of course, it would be nice to have a good cooperation also with them in the field of training and safety and certification. And I know that Turkey will also continue to cooperate with Denmark, and I'm sure that it also would be better for Turkey to maximize her potential. And I thought it's been a fruitful panel, and I'd like to thank each and every panelist one by one. In particular, it also is an honor for me to moderate the session. And at the same time, we also have good, again, experts here. And I hope we actually have been useful for all of you. Thank you all.
Ben de tüm katılımcılara Türkiye Rüzgar Enerjisi Birliği adına teşekkür ediyorum.
Thank you very much. At the same time, for all the panelists. And we'll be delivering certificates to each and every panelist. It's not going to be a plate of appreciation, but a certificate.